everybody, to the Entrepreneurial CPA Show, special COVID-19 knowledge updates, still with that deep dive you need to break through the box and punch above your weight. As always, I'm Garrett Wagner, your Entrepreneurial CPA Channel co-host. And because Dr. Sean is still locked in his parents' basement in New Jersey on lockdown, we're getting some special guest hosts. And if you've been watching the past couple episodes, you know I've got with me Donnie Shimamoto, Managing Director, Enterprise Technologies, one of the leading voices on technology, on innovation, on firm change in the country. Donnie, happy to have you here. And I see you've moved to a new background and location.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing. And, I'm kind of known for it's like, where's Donnie in the world type of a thing. So I thought we started off in Hawaii in the first one. Then we went to Arkansas. And well, now here I am in Japan.
That is true. You are a man that just travels the globe. I never really know where you are. But that's part of this digital transformation we're making as professionals is you are a CPA firm owner, in a sense, in a completely non-traditional firm, but is the future of the firms that we need to move towards. So Donnie, today we're going to pick on something else you've been talking about, help firms get through this and kind of how do we need to rethink about what we do in this age of disruption where, before 6 months ago, you and I would talk about firms are going to be disrupted by technology and it was coming. Now it's just like here. Like you said in the last episode, it's just like the wound got cut open. They've got to get to it. And you've done some remarkable stuff, taking note from PwC's digital upskilling program. And I'd love you to kind of share with our viewers what you're doing with that and how it's relevant to them today.
Well, first, let me describe the PwC program. And because the interesting thing that I learned from them, I got to interview their HR side and really understand, like, how did they do this digital upskilling? And you would expect from a firm like PwC that it was this grand plan and they had this really organized, program that they went and they executed following all the best practices. And the funny thing was he said it wasn't. And I was like, are you just telling me that? Or he's like, I wish I could tell you that we had this grand plan and we used all our change, management things and everything. And he goes, it didn't. It was a little bit of an accident, and then they steered it in the right direction, and accelerated it, and that's where they were. And the interesting thing too, so the quick takeaway from that for smaller firms is that it does not have to take a grand plan for you to digitally upskill. What PwC did was they started with a awareness program around what are the new digital technologies and what do they do. They had a second piece that they called their digital accelerator program, where they took people who showed an aptitude for these technologies and essentially trained them in how to use some of it. And then they had an ongoing area where people within the firm could exchange ideas and have some incentives around utilizing other people's ideas so that you could then leverage and there was a reason for you to share. And luckily, again, they didn't use anything big or large or special. It's all things that we can do in our small and mid-sized firms.
So some of what I hear through that is, small and mid-sized firms can do it. But a big underarching thing I think I'm hearing is like, you've got to be okay that it's not the same thing you did last year. If you're doing audit procedures, just because you've always done X, Y, Z for cash, doesn't mean you need to always do X, Y, Z for cash. Because if you can't get over that, you're not going to get started with this digital upscaling.
I'm going to go yes and no, because I think a little bit of the implication in there is the change in the methodology. And that, while there are some things, especially today, when we're looking at COVID and the need for remote audits, the fact that you can't be there on site, we maybe are doing, for example, our inventory counts a little differently because we don't necessarily want to be on site and handle everything where we could have virus transmission occur. But how do I do it using video? How do I do it? How do I collect video evidence rather than just collecting physical evidence, right? There's a little bit of that. But when we talk about digital transformation, what we're really looking at is fundamentally changing the way that we do things. And that can sound really scary to people because it's, I can't change my audit process. And this is the delicate balance that we face in our profession of having to both innovate while still complying with all the standards, whether you're within audit, tax, or financial reporting. Right? We all have standards that we have to balance out this innovation with, and that's the trick.
Yeah, and I think right now we're a truly interesting time, even before COVID, where the technology is so far ahead of the standards. We've got several technology solutions that exist today that are many, many steps ahead of the standards. And the standards are kind of stuck here and they're up here. And there's that rub in firms of like, oh, great, I want to digitally transform my practice, but I can't use this. Even though it's there and it's affordable and I can do it, I'm still stuck here. So moving past that, so we're not talking about the audit side, what other layers did they learn from this that firms can apply to other parts of their practice where there might not be that rigid standard setting body they've got to rely upon?
Right. And that's where, so again, it doesn't have to be this full big transformations. And that was one of the big learnings from PwC was it was a lot of small things. And there was also another firm, I'll say another top 100 firm that had approached me that they're like, hey, we want to pay you to come in and transform our audit department. And I was like, I cannot transform your audit department. You can transform your audit department, and I can show you how to transform that audit department by looking for all of these little incremental changes that you can make, and by making people aware of this is what automation does, this is what robotic process automation does, this is what data analytics and data visualization will allow you to do. And then with that information, you can have either people identify, hey, we're running this engagement, whether it's audit, tax, whatever it might be, that meets the use case for that technology. And then you can also upskill some of the people in your firm to be able to do like a proof of concept or a trial to say, well, I have this tool available to me. Let me try it and see. And maybe they can do it all the way, or maybe they go, well, I can get it this far. And so we can see that it will work, but there's this one advanced piece that also needs to be done. And that's where we're providing resources to say, hey, we'll just do the advanced piece for you. You take care of everything else, and then you implement it and get it in your firm. So it's really more of enabling a grassroots. And that's what PwC did, was it was a very grassroots, staff-driven identification of innovation that then permeated throughout the firm. Now, when there were patterns that started to emerge in looking at particular areas, that's where then an idea may have gotten passed over to the IT team, who then took it as a top-down initiative and said, okay, we're going to implement this firm-wide change or this regional-wide change. But a lot of it was being seeded from the grassroots.
I can see that. Once you start easy, it's always, these type of changes always come better from those lower on the totem pole anyways. They're in the weeds, they're doing the work. And yeah, we've seen that in our own firm when we started implementing some bots in our PAs, that at first, I was kind of saying like, hey, we're gonna do X, Y, and Z and X, Y, and Z and X, Y, and Z. And everyone's kind of like, the older practitioners are scratching their head like, am I crazy? But then they kind of started like pick up on the pattern and then kind of started to suggest, hey, like, can we do this for this? Can we apply it to this process? Like, I'm seeing some similarities. Because that's, I think, I just see, before the world blew up with COVID, I was seeing, I thought we were gonna hit a great trend this year with bots, where they're just that affordability, the simplicity, and the grasp of it was gonna come together. We're gonna see a lot more adoption this year. Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping, despite all COVID-19, firms are still gonna embrace that. Because I think bots just transform what we do. And especially now with this remote work, non-essential people, for ourselves or for our clients, I think that's part of this digital upscaling is bots are just a part of our firm today.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's where we're starting to see some of the weaknesses, right, in the firms, and perhaps in our clients as well, where they're relying upon this one manual piece because it was easy, because I was in the office and I sat next to the person that I could just go, here, I just sent you this, go and do it. And is there now a way where we can digitally have that passed, or have it passed to a bot, and the bot then goes and does something? So I'm hoping people don't, when we start to go into recovery, which it sounds like soon, people don't just go back and say, well, we're just going to go back to the old way of doing it. What you should do is be taking a lot of the lessons learned and then also looking and saying, what other opportunities are there? Because if you look at a lot of the medical people, they're saying we should be ready for a second wave, because they're already starting to see some reinfections. There's a potential particular areas might have to go into a re-lockdown so that it doesn't spike again. Well, are we going to be ready for that? Can we be ready for that? That's the acceleration that we need in some of this adoption.
Yeah, and like you said there, with that not going back, it's so important to that organizational change you originally started talking about with PwC. You've got to kind of get that buy-in acceptance of we're not going to go back. Yeah. I've been telling a lot of firms, great, you've you had a portal for years that you never used. Your use rate was 5%, 10%.
Yeah.
Now suddenly you're 100%. Great. So next year, don't go back to 10%.
Yeah.
Why take this huge step back? Everyone was forced to take a huge step forward. Keep them there.
Yeah.
Going back, I mean, used to this all the time. If a firm goes back, their outlook's probably not great.
Exactly. And that, one of the, to bring in a different, there's another consultancy that I've talked to. One, if I said the name, all the firms I'm sure would know this name. And it was interesting talking to a few of them, a few of the consultants from this firm that said, they consult to the firms. They said, well, we're starting to turn firms away. And I said, what do you mean you're starting to turn firms away? They said, yeah, some firms are coming to us and we assess where they're at and it's too late. What do you mean it's too late? Like, they're not going to make it. They're too far behind the curve. They're just going to have to wait and let themselves get bought out or something. And I was like, wow, that is scary to hear that other consultants, traditional consultants to the firms are now saying, sorry, firm, we're not working with you because you're too far behind the curve.
I can see that. I can see that realistically happening. I can see a number of firms that I know, no offense, that are in that boat. Like, same thing, like they're not working at all right now because they were so far behind that to just get the bare bones remote just wasn't possible in the short time frame. So yeah, if I'm a 65-year-old partner and I'm looking at this, okay, just to get to the cloud, step one is going to cost me X and take 6 months, and I'm already 1.5 feet out the door.
Yeah.
Throwing the towel, like.
See, but that I think it's a little bit of a catch-22 in some ways, because throwing the towel now, then what is your firm really worth? Because it's like trying to get someone come in and buy a fixer-upper house or a ramshackle house because you've not automated, you don't have stuff, right? And so it's, do you do that or and get a lower value of your firm buyout for whoever's coming in? Or do you take the other approach, which some people will do with their houses as well, which is, well, let's invest a little, fix some of the things up, and then perhaps get a better deal. It's an interesting kind of decision point for a lot of people that might be in that situation you just described.
Yeah, and like we talked about in prior episodes, that's where, the consultant or someone, either of us, would come in and help them like kind of clarify that direction and thinking through, here's the pros and cons of both. Here's our role. We're going to help you figure out which of those two you want to do, because neither one's a clear-cut answer. And there's pros and cons to both. We're going to help you understand what's the best direction for you, your firm, your people, your clients, and your financial well-being. And that's how we demonstrate value to you. Versus just kind of turning them away, like, let's help you make this decision throughout it. So awesome, Donnie. It's been a blast. This is your 3rd episode. You've been a special co-host on. Any final words as we wrap this up?
I think it's really just about embrace the future. I think a lot of people feel like we are fighting the technology or it's going to come and take us over, and we're really not. It's really about transcending the technology. So figuring out what the technology can do, let the technology do it, and then figure out what is our niche as the accountant, as the human, and then leveraging that and transcending the technology.
I don't think I can agree any more with that. I mean, I look at right now, like, this whole payroll loan thing hit in the middle of quote unquote tax season, busy season. And a lot of firms were balancing both sides. The compliance work versus advisory stuff. And yeah, if you'd automated a big chunk of that compliance work, you would have been able to deal with that fire hose. It wouldn't have felt like such an overwhelming fire hose because you had 2. Cut out that one that no one values and be ready to focus on the important stuff. That's what's make the difference.
But the important thing to remember is that even though it's not valued, it's still required. And that's the thing that I'd always remind people, because they go, well, the tax return is not a lot of value, but it's required. So we still need to do those things, but we need to get the cost of delivering those services minimized, and doing that through this technology.
Yes, 100%, because it has to get done, and our clients come to us for that. Make that the small part. We get that done quickly, efficiently for you with value.
Yeah.
Now we're focused on this. So awesome. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you got more questions on how to make your own digital upscaling transformation, reach out to Donnie. I'm sure he'd be happy to share more insight in the PW survey with you. As always, thank you for watching. Click to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We challenge you to take actions to change this crazy world and continue to invest in yourself.